find a safe place for this. Oh, yeah, he's trying to roll off. Hola.
Buenos días.
Good morning, my beloveds. And good morning to those who are joining us from Facebook Live. Thank you for being here with us today. We are talking about the 4 agreements. And today we're talking about don't take anything personal. Okay? Not really about you. Although it is, and it's the paradox, and we'll talk about that. But we were talking about a series on the 4 agreements. And we started last week with agreement number 1, which is be impeccable with your word. Which just means say what you mean what you say, and show up as your God self. Right? Let the divine show up in all of your interactions. We'll go on next week to talk about we're doing that this week. Don't make assumptions. And finally, always do your best. And these are the 4 agreements that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. So the reason why we're doing the 4 agreements, because we talked about this last week, we are all living with agreements. And some we recognize and some we don't. I was talking to my friend, and this is my friend Bill Sweeney. We've been friends for over 40 years. And he is in town from Arizona. And he came in on early Saturday morning. We were talking all day on Saturday, just blah, blah, blah. And I got a message from Phil. He's like, oh, we missed you. I'm like, missed you? Where was I supposed to be? Yeah, completely missed the class. Sorry about that. But anyway, Bill and I were talking because he came over to Vietnam when I was over there, when Jason and I were there, and he came to visit with us. He was talking about our friend, who was also our housekeeper, and she was our friend, Saw. And we were getting ready to go somewhere, so he, being the gentleman that he is, opened the door for her. And she's standing there waiting for him. And he's waiting, and she's waiting, and there's a whole block. There's a whole block at the door. And finally, Jason said, oh no, the women walk behind the men here, so she's waiting for you. And he's like, oh, sorry. So he went on out. But you see, it was a whole different agreement. Our agreement here is that gentlemen open the door for ladies and let them walk through. Over there, it's that the men walk ahead. I don't really know the reason for that. It doesn't matter, but that's what it is, and that's what they've all agreed to. So we're talking about the 4 agreements, and one of the things that do I have this thing part of it? Yeah. What's happening? Is that we're building a foundation of 4 particular agreements, because this is how we want to show up in our lives. We're talking about what our core values are, and we're living on a foundation of the 4 agreements, so that our core values actually will show up exactly what we want to. So we're talking about the 4 agreements. Going backwards, okay? Go ahead, upside down. We're talking about the 4 agreements because we're building the habit of the 4 agreements so that we can have an ever-evolving, greater life. That's what the 4 agreements are going to help us do. So this one today is about not taking things personally. And what this means is this. People are talking to you from where they are, right? They're not talking to you from where you are, unless you're there as well. So what it looks like is this. If someone shows up and says to you, my God, you're looking fat. Hi. Some people do that. And if this is your thought, wow, she can see that? Then you agree. But if your thought is like, what? Excuse me? This is fine right up in here. What are you? Then you don't agree. Okay? And you are not taking it personally. So, taking it personally is about thinking it's all about me. It's all about me. And it's not. All right? When you're taking things personally, you think that people are coming from where you're coming from, and they are not. It is not all about you. Nothing people do is about you. It's all about them. Just remember that. When people show up, it's all about them. I had a songwriting friend when I was living in Whitney, and I started going to Unity, started doing the artist's way, and I wrote my first songs. And she was a classically trained pianist. So she heard the songs I was singing, I'd sing to her. She was, oh, I know how this goes. And so we started writing songs together and traveling. And because she was classically trained, I had another friend that explained to me what classically trained means. He said, in order to be creative, you have to overcome your classical training in order to actually be creative and write. So she was overcoming her classical training, and she had written the song. And it was basically operatic. Now, I don't know, some of you have heard me sing. Now, would you say that my voice is more operatic? Or would you say it was more soulful? That's what I'm saying. So when she asked me to sing the song, I heard the song and I said, it's a beautiful song. I love the song. I can't do it justice. But I know a woman, and actually there's a great woman that was singing at the Unity of Dallas. And I said, let's call her and let's have her sing the song for you. Do you know that our friendship ended over that? Yeah, it ended. Because what I was saying to her agreement in her mind was, if I didn't do the song, I didn't like her or her music. What I was saying was, I love the song. I can't do great things with this song. Let's get someone who can do a great song, a great job with a great song. And everybody was getting all involved in this conversation that she and I were having, because we had a lot of friends. And they're like, what's going on? You can't do the job. Here's what they said. You would lose a friend over not singing a song? And I said, no. But apparently she would. Okay? This is what I'm talking about, and the value and the importance of understanding what you agree with. What I was saying and what she was saying was not in agreement. What you do or say or think about, whatever your agreements are, is about what your beliefs are. And I believed that she was a great songwriter, but she didn't hear that. And so there you go, there's nothing I can do about it. What others do, say, or think is about what they believe. You cannot change what someone else believes. What we can understand is that when we speak to people, think about this and know this, where are they actually coming from? And what do you agree with, and what do you not agree with? The truth is that everyone is dealing with their own beliefs, their own opinions, their own agreements. So I have a thought about an experiment. This is actually what I do. The next time you're just maybe with some friends at a lunch or whatever, instead of being involved in the conversation, listen to the conversation. Just kind of sit back, just like this woman over here is doing, just kind of outside the conversation, and listen to the conversation and see what's happening. Are they actually listening to each other? Is anybody listening? Are they agreeing with one another? And you can tell there's agreement because no one's arguing. They're just saying, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Or, like it looks like this guy is doing right here with the sweatshirt, he's kind of waiting for homeboy to shut up. So he can go ahead and tell him what he's really thinking. That's normally what we do. We're waiting for you to be quiet. Yes, I hear your point, but then here's what I think. Now here's what you think. That's usually how conversations actually go. Here's what I think, here's what you think, here's what I think, here's what you think. So here's my litmus test, is what I call it, for speaking our truths. Because the question becomes, how do we, because we're talking about the 4 agreements, and we're talking about showing up as our God self. So if someone says something, I'm in a conversation, and I don't have an agreement with it, how do I speak to that? What do I say? Well, here's a litmus test for me for even speaking to the truth in the first place. First of all, is it true? Is this thing working? There it is. Is it true? Now, truth, obviously, there's facts, and we know that they're true, and then truth is subjective, right? So it's maybe true to you right now. That's fine. But that's the first question. It's 3 things. Is it true? The second thing is it necessary for you to even speak or reply? Okay? Now, I told you last week about a meeting that I had gone to. It was a live Alzheimer's experience. And during that time, there was a lot of caregivers and nurses, professionals, all kinds of people showed up. And I was having a conversation with this woman next to me, and a guy came up to talk to her as if I wasn't standing there, and just proceeded to have this long conversation, never turning to me and say, oh, excuse me for a second, never including me in the conversation. It's like I wasn't there. When he finished the conversation, I said, excuse me, I'd like to talk to you for a second. So, here's the question I'm saying. It was true, from my perspective, what I was about to tell him. Is it necessary to say? How do we know that it's necessary? Because just because you want to say something doesn't make it absolutely necessary to say. The reason why I felt it was necessary at that time to speak to him is because we were at a conference that was about caring about people. I felt like he was a guy that was there because he does care about people. And I don't think he knew what he had just done. So I felt like, okay, it's true. I think it's necessary because of how he showed up today. He showed up here today saying he's a caring person, but he just did something that wasn't caring. So I'm going to go ahead and explain it to him. So that was true and necessary. But here's the final thing. Is it kind? When you speak the truth to someone and you discover that it's necessary, what is the kindest way you can say what needs to be said? So when I took him aside, I said, listen, I know you're a good guy. I know it already. Because you're here. And the reason I'm speaking to you is because I think that you want to know. So here's what happened. I felt invisible when you did that. And I know that's not what you're telling me. So you understand? So as we're showing up as our God self, and we are listening and not taking things personally, so knowing that everybody has their own way of coming and being in a conversation or being somewhere, how do we show up? How do we talk about what we do or don't agree with? And how do we do it in a way that is kind or that's necessary or that in fact is true? One of the things that can be said when someone says something and we don't necessarily agree with, we think, sometimes people feel like, and I certainly feel the same way, if I don't say something, I'm complicit in agreeing because I didn't say I don't agree. So rather than say I don't agree, one of the things you can say, and these are just suggestions, it's like, that hasn't been my experience. So, I'm not arguing. But that just hasn't been my experience. I haven't seen that racist or sexist or whatever thing you're talking about. That hasn't been my experience. Or, that's interesting perspective. Tell me more. Right? Because you want to understand more. That's interesting. Tell me more about that. You see how you show up as your God self, but understanding that people come from their own agreements and saying a truth, a thing that they believe is true and in fact is true for them, doesn't necessarily mean it's true for you. I've had people tell me, just being up here on a platform and speaking, oh my God, you speak? Oh my God, oh my gosh, you shouldn't do that. Now, should I or should I not?
You should.
Correct. Thank you, Richard. But that's not about what I can do. That's about what they can do. You understand? It's about their fear. When you're thinking about doing something, you're thinking about stepping out in your creative field. This is one of the things we talk about in the artist way. First of all, be careful I don't want you to be careful, but just think about who you're sharing your joy with. Because everybody can't understand it. But secondly, when you share something with you, I'm thinking about painting this huge mural. A huge mural. That would be what I would say, because I can't paint at all. Oh my God, how do you see what's going to happen? I'm coming from my fear of painting, not knowing what you can do. So just understand those kinds of things. Someone tells you you shouldn't do something, they're talking about they shouldn't do it, not necessarily that you should or should not. Or whether you should do something. It's not that they should do it, not necessarily that you should. So it's about what you agree with yourself. Whatever someone says, you can let it, if you don't take it personally. This is the point of the thing today. You can just let it roll off because it's not your truth. It is their truth. Does it make sense? Yes. Okay, good. So this is what we're talking about. I had I just want to tell you this. Everyone has an opinion about why you should or shouldn't do something. I'll show you that slide about opinions in a minute. But here's and I I don't like the whole Venus, Mars, men and women thing, but this is a quintessential difference that I have seen between men and women. Men come to a conversation or whatever, or discussion in resolve mode, right? Let's fix this. Because this is, to me, the men that I've been in my life, and I've worked with, I've been a mechanic, I've been a police officer, I've been a number of things. I've worked around a lot, a peace officer, I've been around a lot of men. And their first response is, oh, okay, let's fix that. Let's fix that, because that's how they show love, it's what they can do. The way that women show up in a conversation, it's really just kind of chit-chatting about it. I just want to talk to you about what we're doing and maybe, just vent a little bit, and I'm not looking for a resolution or problem solving. I can solve it on my own. I just want, right? So this begins to be this disagreement between the two of us if we understood that. When you're dealing with someone that you love, and you know that this is their agreement, men help fix things. This is my job. Fight. Building. This is what I do. So you don't have to be upset about that. You can just say, okay, baby, thank you. I don't actually need a problem solver right this second, but I would like you to listen. And again, it's how you show up in kindness and in love, telling your truth, and vice versa. When the husband is coming to you with something and you're just going on about it, if we could do this, honey, I don't really want a whole imagining about where this could go. I'm asking you what you think we should do right now. You understand? So this is how understanding, not taking things personally. He doesn't understand me, she doesn't understand me, whatever. You don't take it personally. Try to understand what they're agreeing with. What are their agreements? What have they shown up to the conversation with? And if you can't understand that, understand what you showed up to the conversation with and own that. Okay? Own that. So that's the power of not taking things personally. When we don't take things personally, and we show up, my mouth is getting dry. Take a little second. Why this didn't fall? So I can actually take it to the right. Generally, it's rolling on the floor somewhere. So to show up and to live the four agreements when we're being impeccable with our words. That's the first agreement. Why that's so important to be impeccable with our words, because we begin then to show up with our core values in place. We get to have our vision for who we want to be. That comes from the core values that we've already identified is who we are. My core values, I'm going to be a caring, loving, a person who listens, whatever those core values are for all of you. And we talk about maybe just about 5 of them that you kind of have at the top of your head that you know is you. So everything you show up in, it shows up as that. Our vision comes out of that. My vision is how I see my core values showing up. So we get to have a vision for our lives. We get to talk about our core values. We get to talk about who we want to be and how that's going to work in our lives. When we don't have that, and having those core values, staying with the 4 agreements helps us stay on the path we want to be on. We talked about this morning about crazy makers in our lives, just taking you off the path, down their path. Knowing who you are, your vision, your intention for your lives keeps you on the path you want to be on in love. So you can release people in love. And this is all good. Taking things personally, though, when you take things personally, you get offended. Everybody's looking to be offended about something around here. I was watching CNN. I get the 5 things from CNN every morning. It comes to my mailbox, 5 things CNN thinks you should know for the day to get going out the door. And so I'm watching this show, and this reporter, I got to remember her name now, it's so great. Her name was Ana Navarro. She's a CNN commentator. Have you guys been hearing about this issue with, I want to see what the airline it really was. Okay, I didn't write the airline down. Okay, it doesn't really matter. There's an airline that tried to do some new slogans on their napkin. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes. No. Delta.
Was it Delta? Okay. So they were basically trying to tell you how to hit on people while you're on the plane. All right, just get your number, because you never know. Right? That's what this is. So Ana Navarro was asked, she was asked if she was creeped out about the airline napkin controversy. This was her response. This is what she says. Look here. I'm creeped out about blackface, people showing up in blackface. I'm creeped out about sexual assault. I'm creeped out about children being left and separated from their parents at the border. I'm having a hard time getting creeped out about a lousy neck. Okay? So knowing who you are, what your vision is, what your goals are, where you're trying to go, this keeps you, and not taking things personally, this keeps you from getting offended and worrying about the little things. So that you can worry and not even worry about, but actually take care of the big things, which is your core values, your vision for your life, where you're going, and how you want to show up as a person of God. As a person of God in your life and all of your interactions. That's what not taking things personally has to do with. It makes like big stuff out of little stuff, and you're taking things personally, and it forces your opinion. So what do you think about that? What's your opinion about? What's your opinion about that? I don't have an opinion about that. I move on. I don't want to talk about that. But everyone has an opinion. It's like there's 6 guys up there. Each one of those guys will tell you something different about the same thing, right? They have a different perspective, a different opinion about what is before them, because of what they can see, because of the agreements that they have, even with themselves. So what you say or what you do or what you believe, those are your beliefs. They're not mine necessarily. Your opinion of me, listen to me, it's really none of my business, right? Someone else's opinion of you, none of your business. What do you care? What do you care? Either way, even if they say something positive or negative, don't believe the press, good or bad. So on this same topic today, I can have somebody say, oh my God, PJ, best you've ever done. Girl, you really shouldn't have got up there and said that. I will. Every Sunday, there's something like that going on, and that's okay. Because I'm speaking, the Spirit gives me a message. Somebody asked me the other day, how do you come up with these topics? How do you stay passionate? Because I'm speaking to Spirit. And Spirit is guiding me about who needs what here. I don't know who all does, but what I speak to is because someone needs to hear that message for whatever reason. And I talked to you guys when I first started. That's how I always do my talks. Whatever I speak to, whatever I say, is coming from the heart of God, from me. Not from my ego, not from a school. Well, I think you should do that. I think you should. None of that. It's all about God in me. That's the importance of, again, not taking things personally. As good people, I understand that we get concerned about hurting people. Again, that was part of our talk in the August Way this morning. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want to, we don't want to offend people. When we talk about don't take things personally and saying, that's not my experience, whatever it's going to be. But here's the thing I want you to know. If you do agreement number 1, which is be impeccable with your word, do what you say what you do, and show up as your God self, you will not hurt anyone. You cannot hurt anyone because you're showing up in love. God is the highest form or word for love. Do you get that? So if love is always showing up, where is fear? Because that's all these other things are all a piece of fear. That's how fear shows up. Love shows up as caring and and being concerned. That's how love shows up. So show as your God self, be impeccable with your word, and love will show up. And you won't need to worry about hurting people. Speak your truth. Allow other people to speak theirs, and know that their truth is not necessarily yours. And it is okay. It is okay. You don't need to take things personally. I know I told you this story before, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it. We talked about how when we're in a relationship with someone, and we start off with the relationship knowing, what we know. But of course, as you get involved, you learn more. And when we begin a relationship, there is a tacit agreement between the 2 of us, or 3 of us, or how many are in the relationship. There's a tacit agreement. We're not necessarily spoken, but we agree to care for each other, like each other, love each other, whatever the agreement has been. And it's tacit. Sometimes people in a relationship change that agreement. You didn't agree to, and so now you're in a new place. You did not agree to that new place when you started. And part of the problem that we have is saying no to the new thing. Because we said yes. You know, we got involved. Yes, you did. You said yes to this. You did not say yes to this. And you have the right to say, this part right here does not work for me. And you cannot change people. That's not what we're trying to do, because they have their own agreements and beliefs. But what happens is this. You show up as your God self with what you know to be true for you, with what you believe, and here's what will happen. You give them the opportunity to adjust to that you that you've set forth and said, this is what I want, or you get to leave it behind and say no to this. These are the choices we get to make, and those are the choices they get to make. Either move with you in this new place or leave. And there is no wrong or harm in that. You're not being a hurtful person. In fact, I believe it's being hurtful to stay someplace you don't wish to be. How do you love someone when you don't wish to be there? How do you care for someone you don't want to be around? You cannot. The most loving thing to do, if they cannot come to where you are, again, you cannot change anyone, is to say, I believe we've come to the end of the road. And this is all okay. But as good people, we get confused about that and thinking that we have to stay where we started because that's where we agreed to do that. Yes, we agreed to that, not to this. And things continue to change. So know that as well. Okay? That's what we do. So, I just want to tell you just a really quick story about my friend Eric, and then I'm going to move on. I told you about this, the one that he was, we were trying to do some music together. He was a great bass player, and he kept showing up to the job wearing, like he was in a garage band, these ripped up jeans, these backwards baseball caps, and we're trying to play at high-end 5- and 6-star resort weddings. Hello? And I said, Eric, we cannot get jobs, continue to get jobs if you keep showing up like this. Oh, no problem, shows up again. Eric, we can't do that. Is there a problem? Is there something, how can I help you with this? No, I got it, I understand, no, I won't do it. Of course he did it again. So, Eric, you're fired. I did not fire Eric. Who fired Eric? Eric. Right? So you don't fire people or release people from your lives. They release themselves because they've changed the game. And you don't have to keep accepting it, or you can talk to them about it. So again, this is what we're talking about as we move forward. Everyone sees the world in their eyes. Just remember that. Everyone sees the world in their own eyes. Everyone is watching their own movie of their own life. Not necessarily watching your movie, watching theirs. Everybody's got a movie playing. They've written and directed their own film. And they are the point of view. Everybody, when I'm back to, you were asking me before, if I'm back to writing, yes, I'm able to get back to writing now. And so, when you are a writer, the quickest way to lose somebody is to change what we call the POV, the point of view. You have to establish a point of view character. This is the person, the story is being told from this person's point of view. But know that every story can have several different points of view. So you have a main character's point of view, and then you go to the antagonist, who's the enemy, and you tell the story from that person's point of view. And you make clear that you switched the POV. My point of this is this. In every conversation you have, everyone is the main character in their story, right? They're the POV character. So understand that, that's all. Just know that that's what we're doing. So again, you're happy with your agreements, then your movie is about nothing but peace. It's peace for you to live your life, living your agreements, being impeccable with your word, and showing up as your God self. That's where peace comes. We don't take things personally because you know who you are. You're starring in your own movie of truth, and you show up and trust yourself and choose to believe who you are, a child of God. And everyone else is too, but again, coming from their own perspective. Everything works well if we stand on our agreements to be impeccable with our word, to say what you mean what you say, show up as your God self. There is nothing else for you to do. That is all you need to do. Be impeccable. Show up as your God self. And don't take things personally. It isn't about you. And then again, it is.